Okay, go.
Oh, wow. A person may borrow pitchers of wine or pitchers of oil from his friend, provided he does not say to him, "Lend me." In the same manner, a woman may borrow loaves of bread from a friend. If he does not trust him, he may leave his cloak with him and make a reckoning with him after Shabbos. He may cast lots with his children and the members of his household for portions of the table, provided he does not intend to wager a large portion against a small portion, because of the prohibition of gambling. And Kohanim may cast lots for sacrifices on Yom Tov and not for portions. A person may not hire workers on Shabbos, nor may a person tell his friend to hire workers for him. We may not go to await nightfall at the Sabbath boundary for the purpose of hiring workers or bringing produce, but one may await nightfall to enable him to watch and bring produce in his hand. Abba Shaul stated a general rule: whatever I am permitted to instruct on the Shabbos, I am permitted to await nightfall for it. We may await nightfall at the Shabbos boundary to attend to the affairs of a bride or the
Okay,
affairs of
so
a
so
deceased.
this is me now. Okay,
Okay,
so even though you cannot get married on Shabbos, and you right, so because it's right, you can't do it on Shabbos. Nonetheless,
right,
we just said on the previous Mishnah that you're only allowed to go and hang out by the Tchum in order
right,
to do something that you're allowed to do on Shabbos. But this over here, Iske Kala, is a davar mitzvah. Similarly, al Iske Hameis lahavi lo Aaron v'tzaprechin. So if somebody died Rachmana litzlan on Shabbos and he needed to hurry to get things ready for the funeral after Shabbos from a neighboring town, he's allowed to do that because again, the caring for the dead, you can't bury somebody on Shabbos, but he can hang
right.
out by the tchum in order to take care of it. Okay, goy shehevi chalilin b'Shabbos. Now the flutes. This was an old custom, was to play the flute as in a sad tune at the funeral. Okay, so if a non-Jew knew that there was going to be a funeral on Motzei Shabbos, let's say, and he said, "Oh well, yeah, let me do these Jews a favor," and he brings the flutes. He brings the flutes to them. Lo
Hmm.
yisod bahin Yisrael. The Jews are not allowed to use them. Ela im kain ba'u mimakum karov, unless they actually came from a place that's within the Tuchum, that's
Hmm.
within, yeah. And so, in other words, what they would have to do is wait after Shabbos, is wait kadesh yayasu in enough time that it could have been done legitimately by a
Right.
Jew. Okay. Asulo Aaron chafrulo kever. So if the non-Jews made an aron for themselves, they were just coffin makers,
Right.
and they were working on Shabbos to make a stam coffin for anyone who needs one. Chafru lo kever, or they were grave diggers and they were working on Shabbos to dig graves because people die and they need graves. And now comes Motzei Shabbos, they want to bury a Jew in there. That's fine. You cover Bo Yisrael. But in Bishvil Yisrael, however, if it was done specifically with the Jews in mind, lo yikaver bo olamis. Yeah, it says the Mishnah, you can never bury a Jew in that aron or in that burial
So,
place.
so
But
if they were digging a grave just because they don't know who's going to be there, but just digging a grave,
yeah,
you know,
but the
and
second
and
case
then
is where it was done
right,
deliberately for
right, that's different. Okay, all right,
okay. Um, Lo kiva bo olamis oso Yisrael. That if it was made specifically for a Jew, a particular Jew that they knew had died, then he cannot be buried in there.
right.
Okay, but after Kadesh Yeyasu, after the time in which the coffin could have been made and or the grave could have been dug, um, so then it is sorry, let me just read in the commentary over here. But davke kashi asu hanokrim es haaron or chafru kever b'Shabbos b'shvil Yisrael b'far Hesia. This is dafka when it was done in public because they said this is for a particular Jew. Then it's asur ever to bury him in it because
Mhm.
of the kavod hameis. Aval im asu betzina, if they just dug it privately and didn't tell anyone about it. Mutar lekovre b'motzei Shabbos le'achar sheshahu b'chdei sheyasu, then even that same Jew would be allowed to be buried in there after Kadesh Yasu, as long as it was done privately. If it was done publicly, that Jew can never be buried in there, but another Jew could be buried in there after Kadesh Yasu.
Okay,
Hey, Osin kol tzorchei hameis. You can do everything you need to on Shabbos for the needs of the dead. Sachin medichin also. You're allowed to anoint the dead with oils, perfumes so it shouldn't smell. Medichin, you can rinse it. Ubilvad shelo yazizu bo ever. As long as you don't move a single limb of the mace, because the mace is muktzah. Okay, shomtin is hakar mitachtav. So if you have a cushion underneath the mace, and for whatever reason you need to move, you need the mace to lie on the ground. Perhaps the ground is cooler, will decompose less. Whatever the reason is that the mace was it was lying on a cushion, you're allowed to remove the cushion from underneath, even though the mace will move. That's called tiltul min atzad. Umatilin also al hachol bishvil sheyamtin, and allow, and you can allow the corpse to rest on the sand by removing the cushion so that it should be preserved better. Kosher misalechi, you're allowed to tie some kind of a string around the jaw, not in order to close the door. You can, because you cannot move the mace. Even closing
Right.
the door is not allowed. Ela shelo yosif, just so that if the jaw was falling open, it doesn't fall open more. V'chein Korah, in a similar situation, completely different subject matter, but also in terms of context of Shabbos. If you have a beam that was broken in the house and you're worried that this beam is going to fall, somchin or safsal, you're allowed to place a bench or something to prop it up. Uh,
Yeah.
or ba'arochos hamita, or with some sort of bed bed beams, you're allowed to prop it up. Lo shitale, not to push it back up into position. Illa shelo yotosef, just to stop it from falling down further. So you're not allowed to do bone. So one is in the case of bone and one is in the case of muktzah. But in either case, you're allowed to prop it up so that it should not fall further, but not to put it back. Okay. Back to the mace. Ein ma'amtzin is mace b'Shabbos. You may not close its eyes. Okay, that again, that's a din in muktzah. And furthermore, while we're talking about closing the eyes of a mace, lo b'chol im yetzias hanefesh, you're not allowed to touch the person who's a goses, who
Mhm.
is dying. You cannot reach over and say, "Oh, let's close your eyes for you," because that could actually be murder.
Right.
You could cause him to die sooner. You make a person die 1 second sooner than they have to, that's considered retzach.
Mhm.
Okay. V'ama'ametz im yetzias nefesh harei ze shofech damim. Says the Mishnah, somebody who closes the eyes of a goses while he's busy dying, that is called shfichas damim, bloodshed. Okay. I think technically he would not get, if he had Eidim and Asra, he would not get executed for it, because because it's a goses, not a healthy person. So you're
Yeah.
not liable to a death penalty for killing somebody who's already dying, but it's still not a good thing to do. Okay. And we're into the final parak of Shabbos.
Yeah.
Okay, Mi hechshich baderech. Okay, somebody who was on the road on Friday, and he isn't, and whatever, he's delayed, he misjudged the distance, and realizes that he's not going to make it. He's not going to make it to town before Shabbos comes in. But he's got a non-Jewish companion, and he's got his wallet on him, and he can't carry his wallet outside, obviously.
Right.
So now what's he going to do with his wallet? He's like getting all panicky. And in much the same way as the Chachamim looked at the situation of the house burning down and said, look, a person is bahul al mamono, so we got to put him into a halachic frame of mind over here. But they looked at this situation and said, look, Adam bahul al mamono, if we don't give him an out to of some way to carry his wallet, he's going to just carry it anyway, because he's not going to drop it.
Right.
It's very
Right.
precious to him. He's just not going to drop it. So they said special dispensation over here, no sen kisel nokri. Give it to the non-Jew. He can carry it, and let him carry it for you. Now, generally, we don't allow a miril nokri. We don't say to
Right.
him,
Right.
do malacha for me on Shabbos, carry this for me, do whatever work for me on Shabbos. You're not allowed to do that. But in this case, Adam bahul al mamono, you let him give his wallet to the nokri, and then at least he'll still
Right.
be, he's not going to do it himself. What happens if he doesn't have a non-Jewish companion? He's just got a donkey. Menicho ala chamor. You can put it on his donkey. Now, this itself is also a huge, huge heter because you're not because it's much worse to get your animal to do malacha than it is to get a guy to do malacha here because you are commanded on the shvita of your animal. The animal is supposed to rest as well. So you're not allowed to get your animal to do malacha for you. So you've got to compound all the heterim over here. The fact that okay, so the animal is going to carry, and it's let me just see. So Adam Mechamer. Um, so definitely, if he has a non-Jew with him, he must give it to the non-Jew. But if he doesn't have the but if he doesn't have a non-Jew, then he and Okay, wait. So just I just skipped the part in the commentary that I was looking for. Um, the Gemara explains that he must put his wallet on the donkey while it is walking, and when he wants the donkey to stop, then he must take the wallet off the donkey before the donkey stops, so that there shouldn't be um, a placement and of the thing in the Rishos Rabbin. Um, because if there is such a thing, then he would be over on Mechamer, which is driving a laden donkey. Okay, so
Right.
Okay, so he finally gets to the first courtyard in the city on Shabbos. What can he do with all the things that are loaded on the donkey? Okay. Not unless a kelim and tell him Shabbos. Okay, so let him take the things that are not muktzah, and he'll pick them up and put them into a mutter place. Shabbos. What happens with the things that are muktzah? Matir sachavalim. Let him untie the ropes for a sakin. Noflin me'elehem, and then the things will fall by themselves. What happens if he's got breakables inside there? Breakable muktzahs. Okay. So then what he can do is he can first put down a whole bunch of cushions and things that so that these things will not break, and then he can release the ropes and let the things down.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. Good. Okay.
Right. Yud Ches Gimel.
Oh, you can't skip. We may not assist an animal in delivering its young on Yom Tov, but we may support it. We may assist a woman in childbirth on Shabbos, but we may call a midwife from place to place. For her, we may desecrate the Shabbos on her behalf, and we may tie the umbilical cord. Rabbi Yossi says we may even cut it. And all requirements of circumcision may be performed on Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer says if one did not bring an instrument for circumcision before Shabbos, he should bring it on the Sabbath exposed, and in times of danger, he should cover it in the presence of witnesses. Furthermore, said Rabbi Eliezer, we may fell trees in order to make charcoal and to form an iron instrument. But Rabbi Akiva stated a rule: any work that can be done before Shabbos does not override Shabbos. That any work that cannot be done before Shabbos does override Shabbos. We may perform all the necessities of circumcision on Shabbos, and we may circumcise, uncover the corona, draw blood, place a bandage, and cumin upon it. If he did not crush the cumin before Shabbos, he may chew it with his teeth and apply it. If he did not vigorously mix wine and oil before Shabbos, each one should be added to the bowl by itself. We may not fashion a shirt-like bandage for it, but we may wrap a piece of cloth around it. If he did not prepare it before the Sabbath, he may wrap it around his finger and bring it even from another courtyard. Okay.
Gimel Aleph.
Gimel, Gimel Aleph.
That's what I got.
Yeah, Gimel Aleph. Here we are. A double stove that was heated with straw or with stubble, we may place a cooked food upon it, and if it was heated with mark or wood, one may not place cooked food upon it until it has swept away the coals until he has put ashes over them. Beit Shammai says hot water but not cooked food. Beit says both hot water and cooked food, and Beit Shammai says we may remove the food but not replace it, but Beit says we may even replace it. An oven that was heated with straw or with stubble, one may neither place food in it nor on it. A single stove that was heated with straw or with stubble is like a double oven. A double stove with mark or with wood is like an oven. We may not break an egg beside a kettle for it to become slightly cooked, nor when we break it or open it upon hot scarves. But Rabbi Yossi permits this, nor may we cover it in sand or in the dust of the roads in order that it be roasted. Right? Okay,
Yeah,
that's that. Okay, and on to Uma. Okay, Zion Vav. If one of them fell into chulin and does not render meduma, and the other one he treats as truma and is not and is liable to chala, so Reb says Umeya, but Reb Yossi exempts. If the other one fell into another place that does not render meduma, if both fell into the same place that renders meduma, in portion to the smaller one. If he sold one of them, he is exempt, and the other one was treated as truma and it is liable to chala. So says Reb Meir, but Reb Yossi exempts. If another person sold the other, he is exempt. If one sold both, it is of a kind whose seed perishes. It is permitted, but if it is not of the kind of seed who does not perish, it's forbidden. And if a woman was eating truma and they came and said to her, "Your husband is dead," or he divorced you, or likewise a slave who was eating truma and they came to him and said, "Your master is dead," or your master has sold you to a non-priest, or has given you away as a gift, or has freed you, and likewise if a priest was eating truma and it became known that he was the son of a divorced woman or a kalutza, Eliezer holds them liable to the payment of the value in a fifth. The Rabbi Yeshua exempts, and if he was standing and sacrificing on the altar and it became known that he was the son of a divorced woman or a kalutza, Eliezer says all the sacrifice which he offered on the altar are invalid. The Rebbe Shua declares invalid, and it became known that he had a blemish. His ministration is invalid. Okay.
Hey.
False. Okay. Something wrong. I put it in the wrong place. Olive Garden, correct?
Hey.
Hey. Okay. I did put it in the wrong place. Okay. Uh, When do they become purified? But Shammai says when they are increased by a greater amount, then they also overflow. Basil says if they were increased by a greater amount, even though they did not overflow. Rabbi Shimon says if they overflowed, even though they were not increased by a greater amount, they are fit for challah and for ritual washing of the hands. A higher grade of water is a higher grade is water in seeps that is not seeping. If a Talmud person drank from it and then the Tahor person drank from it, he remains Tahor. If a Talmud person drank from it and then one drew from it into a Tahor vessel, it remains Tahor. If a Talmud person drank from it and then a loaf of truma fell into it, although he rinsed it, it remains Tahor. If one drew from it with a Talmud vessel and then a Tahor person drank from it, he remains Tahor. If one drew from it with a Talmud vessel and then one drew from it with a Tahor vessel, it remains Tahor. If one drew from it with a Tameh vessel and then a loaf of truma fell into it, although he rinsed it, it remains tahor. If Tameh water fell into it and then a tahor person drank from it, he remains tahor. If Tameh water fell into it and one drew from it into a tahor vessel, it remains tahor. If Tameh water fell into it and then a loaf of truma fell into it, although he rinsed it, it remains tahor and is fit for truma and for ritual rinsing of the hands. A higher grade is a liquid that contains 40 soil, for in it one may immerse oneself and in it one may things. A higher grade is a spring that has little water and it was increased by a greater amount of drawn water. It is equal to milk into a mikveh in that it purifies only with still water, and it is equal to a spring in that one may immerse things therein whatever its amount. Okay.
Actually, I'm just thinking, what is the situation with snow melt? I think we had this interesting question with in Switzerland. There were like there are a lot of streams and rivers and whatever, and I was thinking, oh, Tovel some kalim in here, and I was thinking, in the flowing water, but it's largely not spring water. It's mostly snow melt water,
Right.
which is technically rainwater, and therefore it has to be pooled in 40 sa'ah in order to purify. Whereas spring water like that comes up from the ground, any amount is good enough.
Right. So what did you do?
Went,
You're not gonna tell me.
went to a mikveh in a city.
Okay. Yud Gimel Zion. If I take upon myself to bring a Todah offering or Shlomin offering, and he brings a lamb, I specify from cattle, but I do not know what I specified.
Wait. I think you're
No, it's wrong. No,
um
it should be ches.
yes.
Yes. If he said, if I take upon myself to bring an ox, he must bring it and its libation offering. For mana, A calf he must bring it and its libation offering for 5. A ram he must bring it and its libation offering for 2. A lamb he must bring it and its libation offering for a seller. If he said an ox for a mana, he must bring it for a mana beside its libation offering. A calf for 5, he must bring it for 5 beside its libation offering. A ram for 2, he must bring it in 2 besides its libation offering. And a lamb for a seller, he must bring it for a seller besides its libation offering. If he said an ox for a mana and he brought 2 for a mana, he has not fulfilled his obligation, even if each is for a mana less than a dinner. Black and he bought white one, or white and he bought a black one, large and he bought a small one, and he has not fulfilled his obligation. Small and he bought a large one, he has fulfilled his obligation. Rebbe says he has not fulfilled his obligation. Okay. If he said, this ox shall be an olah offering, and it became blemished, if he wishes, he may bring 2 for its money. These 2 oxen shall be an olah offering, and they became blemished. If he wishes, he may bring 1 with the money, and the Rebbe prohibits it. This ram shall be an olah offering, and it became blemished. If he wishes, he may bring a lamb with the money. The lamb shall be an olah offering, and it became blemished. If he wishes, he may bring a lamb with the money, and Rebbe prohibits it. If one said, one of my lambs shall be consecrated, or one of my oxen shall be consecrated, if he had 2, the larger of them is consecrated. If he had 3, the middle one of them is consecrated. If he said, I specify, but I do not know which I specified, and he said, my father told me, but I do not know which, the largest of them is consecrated. If one said, I take upon myself to bring an olah offering, he must bring it to the holy temple, and he offered it in the temple of Kanya, which has not fulfilled his obligation. Then I shall offer in the temple of Kanya, and he should offer in the temple of Kanya. He has fulfilled his obligation. Reb Shimon says this is
Hold
not
on,
an olah.
you skipped. If he says I must bring it in the temple, I want to bring it in the temple of Chonyo, then he still has to bring it in the Mikdash. But if he did bring it in the temple of Chonyo, says the Tana Kanama,
Fulfilled his obligation, right? He filled it, right. Rabbi Shimon says, so this is not an olah offering. If one said, I'm a Nazir, he must shave in the holy temple, and if he shaved in the temple of Konya, he has not fulfilled his obligation. That I shall shave in the temple of Konya, he should shave in the holy temple, but if he shaved in the temple of Konya, he has fulfilled his obligation. Rabbi Shimon says, this is not a Nazir. The Kohanim who served in the temple of Konya may not serve in the holy temple in Yerushalayim, and certainly if they served another thing, as it is stated, but the Kohanim of the Bama places would not be allowed to come up to the altar of Hashem in Yerushalayim. However, they ate matzah among their brothers. They are like those who are blemished. They share and eat, but do not offer.
Okay. And tomorrow we're going to finish Menachos and start Chulin.
Okay, cool. Nazir. Okay. Daled Vav. A man may declare a son a Nazir, but a woman may not declare a son a Nazir. How? Are the offerings treated if the son is shaved or his relative shaved him? If he protested and his relatives protested? If he had an animal set aside, the sin offering dies. The burnt offering is offered as a burnt offering, and the peace offering is offered as a peace offering. But it is eaten for 1 day and it does not require bread. If he spends unspecified funds, they go to voluntary offerings. Specified funds, the money for the sin offering goes to the Dead Sea, and one may not benefit from it, but the rules governing the misuse of sacred items do not apply to it. With the money for the burnt offering, they bring a burnt offering, and the rules governing the misuse of sacred items apply. With the money for the peace offering, they bring a peace offering, but it is eaten for 1 day and not require bread. A man can shave his head using his father's and Zerah's funds, but a woman cannot shave her head using her father's and Zerah's funds. How is this? Someone whose father was a Nazir and had set aside unspecified funds for his near Zerahs and died, and the son said, I am a Nazir on condition that I will shave my father's fund, share with my father's funds. Rabbi Yossi said it goes for voluntary offerings. And this one cannot shave using his father's nearest funds. But the one who shaves using his father's and nearest funds, no, who is the one who shaves using his father's nearest funds? Someone who was a Nazir together with his father, and his father set aside unspecified funds for his Naziris and died. This is the one who shaves using his father's Naziris funds. Okay, some more. Beit Shammai says erroneous consecration is nevertheless consecration, but Beit Hillel says it is not consecration. How is this? If he said the black ox that emerges from my house shall be sacred, and a white one emerged, Beit Shammai said it is sacred, but Beit Hillel says it is not sacred. Okay. Tomorrow, you said